All right, good evening, and welcome to the North Metro Mayors Association's Legislative Candidate Forum. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Lori Higgins. I'm the moderator for this evening's forum and the president of the Metro North Chamber of Commerce. The Metro North Chamber of Commerce is a community partner in the North Metro Mayors Association. The North Metro Mayors Association was created in 1987 as a nonpartisan organization advocating for issues and opportunities of importance to the North Suburban region of the Twin Cities. I would like to thank the North Metro Mayors for coordinating and sponsoring this forum, as well as the members of the Metro North Chamber of Commerce for partnering to make this event possible. Thank you, Brooklyn Park, for hosting this event in their City Council chambers, and to CCX Media for recording and airing this forum. Our goal in sponsoring tonight's Legislative Candidate Forum is to provide residents with an opportunity to learn about candidates' ideas and positions on issues that we believe are important to the future of our communities and the North Metro region. We will pose 4 prepared questions. Responses will be in rotating order with set time limits on their answers. I note that these limits are maximums, not minimums. We regret that we cannot cover all issues of interest tonight due to time constraints. I am pleased to introduce the candidates with us tonight for House District 34A, Brian Rains and Danny Nadeau. Thank you both for participating in this forum. Each candidate will now have 2 minutes for an introductory statement, and then we will get started with the questions. Brian Rains, you're up first.
Thank you to the North Metro Mayors Association for putting on this important forum tonight. I'm Brian Rains. I'm a Navy veteran who served our country overseas, a single dad of 2 incredible young men, Barrett and Brody. I'm a business representative for the Carpenters Union, and I work on recruiting members into the organization, as well as working with our contractor partners. I'm running to represent our community in the Minnesota State House. We are at a crossroads in our state and our country, and we need to come together if we are going to address the issues that we are facing. From inflation to safety, to health care, and a woman's right to choose, there is too much on the line for Minnesotans to sit on the sidelines. I look forward to working together to champion our shared values at the Capitol. Again, my name is Brian Rains, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Brian. Danny Nadeau.
Good evening, and thank you to the Chamber and to the North Metro Mayors Association. I'm excited to be here to visit with all of you and to talk with my friend Brian about the issues. I live in Rogers, and I've been there for about 28 years. I raised my family there. My 2 children are off, and one works for the State Department, one is an executive chef, and I couldn't be happier to be here with you guys tonight. Brian's right. We are at a critical point where we are right now in Minnesota. There's so much at stake. And for the longest time, prior to me getting into government work, I ran a small business. And I did that up until I was 35 years old, and I've made a payroll, and I put everything on the line. And small businesses are such a vital component of the environment that we need to try to focus on. Since that point, I've worked in a lot of different layers of government. I was a city manager. I worked at the Minnesota Legislature for a term. I spent some time at the Minnesota Department of Commerce. I thought I was going to retire from there. I worked in the state energy office on the incentive side, not the regulatory side. And I really thought I was going to retire from that until I was recruited to be Jeff Johnson's chief of staff. And since 2010, I've been at Hennepin County. Jeff retired. And the county decided to keep me, and they put me down in contracts management. And today, I negotiate contracts primarily with disabled kids and adults. I do school-based mental health. I do some opioid work, and I do some criminal justice work. And so I see every day the investments that we make as public. I see how successful they can be, but I also see where we can make improvements. So I'm Danny Nadeau, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will go to our prepared questions. This will be done in a rotating order with a rebuttal opportunity. There is a 2-minute time limit for the answer, And after each candidate has answered, there will be a rebuttal opportunity with a 45-second time limit. So question 1, what are the top 1 or 2 issues you hear while campaigning? And if elected, what will you do to ensure that the 2023 legislature works in a collaborative way with the governor and the community to address these issues? First we'll start with Danny, and then we'll go to Brian. Danny.
Excellent. There's a lot of issues I hear at the door. Probably the three big issues are cost of living, inflation. And I also hear about the lack of focus on academic excellence. And then the other big one is the perceived fear that public safety, violent crime, is going to creep into our communities unless we do something about it. There's a lot of different people come from a lot of different places on this, and as far as inflation and cost of living, arguably there's not a ton that the state legislature can do. We can put our budget and make sure that the investments that we're making, the taxes that we're collecting, are basically going where they're supposed to go. They're effective, they're efficient, and we're not collecting more than we need to. Right now, I'm sure we're all aware there's a pretty big surplus at the state right now, and that over collection needs to be addressed moving forward. I think the most important thing that as we move ahead to work collaboratively, that's an important component. There's a thread that underlies every conversation I have at the door, and it's a thread that the divisiveness between the parties is so extreme. It's massive, and the longer that it goes on, the more difficult it's going to be to correct. So I happen to be a Republican, and I'm a proud one, and I happen to work with a ton of Democrats at the county and in the nonprofit service area that I work in, and I have an enormous amount of support. And it's not because they agree with me on every issue. It's not because we're in alignment on all these things. It's because I carve out that space where you can have respectful discussions and appropriate responses. And when you focus on outcomes and you focus on performance measures, the politics have a tendency to fall away. That will be my approach. I think that building strong relationships, making friends at the legislature is vital to getting anything done, and that's what I'll be focusing on.
Thank you. Brian.
Thank you. As I've been having countless conversations with our neighbors, the issues I hear most surround protecting our freedom. As a veteran, freedom is always on the top of my mind as well. Our neighbors want financial freedom from inflation and the rising cost of living, freedom from violence and crime in our communities, freedom for our children to pursue their dreams through quality education, freedom to make our own choices about health care, our bodies, and our futures. I will work with my colleagues across all levels of government and across party lines to ensure that the focus of our elected leaders is and remains to preserve and protect all of our freedom.
All right, thank you. And now an opportunity for a 45-second rebuttal, starting with Danny Nadeau.
So can you define what part, what do you mean by freedom? What does that mean? Who's not free? If we're going to focus on freedom, we all want to be free. So what does that mean from a legislative standpoint when we talk about that?
I think the portion of freedom that I'm referring to, in particular when it comes to inflation, addressing the needs of the community, the rising cost of living, and the oppression of the financial situation at the moment. We're in a time where global inflation is crushing a lot of families right now, whether it's the cost of gas or the rising cost of groceries at the supermarket. That is all tied to the way that the oil and gas industry is putting downward pressure on our economy.
Okay, Brian Rains, would you like to provide a 45-second rebuttal?
I do not.
All right, we will move on to question number 2. Describe your view of local and regional transportation infrastructure needs. Do you believe additional state funding for transportation is necessary? If so, what sources of increased revenue would you consider supporting? We will start with Danny Nadeau and then go to Brian Rains. Danny.
Regional transportation infrastructure. No, I don't believe that we need additional transportation currently. I think that we need to focus on ensuring that the money that we're raising is raised effectively. Now, I would step back and say that I would support 100% of our auto sales tax revenues that currently only 50% go to actually roads and bridges. I would support increasing that to 100%. I think it would increase it by a couple $100 million a year, which is significant. But I think that we need to work on the relationship between the state and the counties and the cities, so that we're more effective in the way that we address, these capital improvements. The turnback issue, for example, is a great example. All of a sudden, if the state's going to turn back a road to the county says, yeah, we'll take it, but you need to invest $500 million in it. I just made that number up. But if the county wants to turn back a road to the city says, well, invest $20 million and we'll take it. And that puts everything at an impasse, because nobody has those kind of large dollars in their budget to make those massive improvements. It's why Washington Avenue is still a county road. Portland and Park are still county roads in downtown Minneapolis. They shouldn't be. There's nothing county associated with that. So I think that we spend $7 billion. Do I wish we could send $8 billion? Sure, but there has to be a trade-off somewhere, and I think we need to far focus on the resources that we currently have before we start looking at increasing taxes on citizens.
Thank you. Brian Rains.
Thank you. Yes, I do believe we need additional state funding for transportation. We have an enormous surplus in our state, and yet we have not been able to pass a bonding bill. Our leaders walked away without finishing their jobs. That is not acceptable. We need to connect our communities, upgrade our infrastructure, and move to a greener and more sustainable transportation future. In terms of resources, we need to prioritize infrastructure when it comes to allocating our surplus and federal dollars coming into the state. Right now, the money is there, and we need to elect leaders who will make the investments we need. In the future, we should look into options like TIF legislation and other means to ensure that we can have sustained funding to meet our growing needs.
Thank you. And now an opportunity for a 45-second rebuttal, starting with Danny Nadeau.
In the last session, I want to say the governor and the House were proposing a 20%. It was a 20% increase in the gas tax. They were proposing increases in the motor vehicle sales tax. They were looking for an automatic inflator that would have increased gas taxes by another 5% over 4 years, I believe. And then they were also looking at tab fee increases. I'm assuming that you support those, that you would support those. How do you balance that with what you just said in your opening statements about more freedom for people, having less costly government? How do you balance that?
Well, the assumption that I support increasing all of those fees and taxes is not correct. There isn't a need to raise taxes and fees when you have a budget surplus like that. The Democrats in the House proposed a gas tax holiday that the Republicans said no to. And at the end of the day, it was the Senate Republicans that walked away from the table.
Brian, would you like to provide a 45-second rebuttal? We will move on to question number 3. This community is part of not just a regional or national marketplace, but a global one that competes for business and talent. What policies would you support to help retain and attract businesses and talent to the region? We will start with Brian Rains and then go to Danny Nadeau. Brian.
Thank you. I believe that investing in our infrastructure will go a long way when it comes to attracting businesses and talent. Simple things like having accessible transportation options that include less congestion on our roads, options that go beyond cars, and more pedestrian and bike accessibility. Having more and more commercial businesses and housing options and access to things like reliable high-speed internet across the entire region to support opportunities that may come to our communities. Something else that is incredibly important to me as a third-generation union member, ensuring that we have quality and affordable education and job training options so that we have the skilled workforce we need in order to meet the growing demands of our vibrant communities. and that we have strong wages, worker protections, and other measures to retain the talent we bring into our community.
Thank you. Danny Nadeau.
We have to look at competing regions and what has been successful in those regions and compare it to what it is that we're doing. I'm going to give you an example. Jobs order contracting is a policy that municipalities have where they can bid and allow small businesses to come in and get experience doing work. They can work on increasing their aggregate bonding limit. It creates more opportunities for small businesses to do bigger and bigger jobs without having to go through without having to go through the design bid build process that oftentimes they can't compete with. I was very helpful in increasing that from 100,000 to 250,000 in the Senate last year. And House and Senate, I think it was in both bills. There was that was increased to 750,000. It didn't pass, but that's a real life example of creating more opportunity for more people to get into municipal work. I think that we can't skip this part though. What it takes to run a small business, what it takes to run a big business is making sure that we have an adequate workforce, that our tax environment it doesn't have to be the lowest in the world, but it can't be the highest in the world. That we need to make sure that our regulations are out there to not only protect society and the people that are there, but it's reasonable for people to be able to conduct business. And these are people that leverage everything they have. They put everything on the line to start a business and employ people. And people might look at that and say it's only one guy, 3 or 4 people. But you take 100 of those people that have the heart and the soul and the mind that they want to do that in their community. That's a growing concern, and that's a big thing. And the last thing that I'm going to say, and I know I'm out of time, is access to capital. We have to be able to have these small businesses with access to capital, have a regulatory environment that works for them to do it, and that's what will build this economy.
Thank you. And now an opportunity for a 45-second rebuttal, starting with Brian Rains. All right, Danny?
No, thank you.
All right. Such pleasant, efficient candidates we have tonight. All right, so moving on to our next question. What should be the role of the Metropolitan Council in guiding policy development in the North Metro? We will start with Danny and then to Brian. Danny.
2 minutes is not enough. I need more than 2.
2 is all you get.
Okay. I don't think that the Metropolitan Council, in its current form, should be guiding development anywhere, much less the north, the south. It doesn't matter where it is. I believe, and I think that there's a lot of support on both sides of the aisle of reforming the Metropolitan Council and making them more transparent, more accountable to people. These are unelected, appointed members that basically have no ballot box. There's no one to complain to. There's no one to talk to. You look at what's happening right now with their management of the Southwest Light Rail. Regardless of where you stand on the issue, the Office of Legislative Auditor has just come out this recently and said that it's a debacle. There's all kinds of reasons for it, but there's no accountability in the Met Council currently, as I see. They have to come to the legislature every once in a while, and they have to ask for a few bucks. But what they get from the legislature is relatively de minimis compared to what they spend. So I truly don't believe that the Met Council in its current form has a good track record of helping communities grow the way that communities want to respectfully. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian.
Thank you. I will not use all 2 minutes. I know that comes as a shock to everybody. The Met Council should first and foremost be a resource and a partner for guiding policy development in the North Metro. I believe that the Met Council should have incentives for growth in certain communities to ensure that our tax dollars are working efficiently efficiently and in coordination across the region. The Met Council should not dictate to communities things like how housing growth should be decided, for instance. That's why we elect local leaders like our great mayors, city council members, and planning commissioners to do that work.
And now an opportunity for a 45-second rebuttal, starting with Danny Nadeau.
Yes, our mayors are great, and those decisions should be made at the local level. But as you probably know, the Met Council dictates what can happen. That's what it does. So if you're supporting the Met Council in its current form to guide, communities' development, you're basically taking that power away from local gov.
Brian, would you like to provide a 45-second rebuttal?
I didn't say I supported it in its current form. I said I did support it. That doesn't mean it can't change. Everything is subject to evolution, and the Met Council is no different than that.
All right, this is the end of our questions for this forum. We will now go to the closing statements for our candidates. We are requesting 60 seconds max per candidate. We'll begin with Brian Rains.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time and for the thoughtful conversation tonight. Please visit my website, brianfromminnesota.com, to learn more about my priorities on the topics we touched on tonight, as well as others. I look forward to continuing these important conversations throughout the campaign, and I hope to earn your support in this race. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Danny Nadeau.
Thank you again for those in attendance, for the mayors and the Chambers Association for putting this on. I've been fortunate to work with a lot of good leaders. Good leaders are respectful. They listen. They're experienced. They build strong relationships. They find balance to make those large-scale decisions that shape our society, our business community. They focus, they prioritize, and they want to be held accountable. And when you look in this race and the other races, we're all going to be voting for a lot of people in this election cycle. Keep that. I want to try to keep that in mind. Is that this is far beyond the political, partisanship that's going on currently, and we need to look behind those things. And I hope that I will be able to meet all of you at the doors. I'll do my very best to earn your vote. I'm Danny Nadeau. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This brings us to the close of this forum. We would like to thank our candidates, the North Metro Mayors Association, the City of Brooklyn Park, CCX Media, and the Metro North Chamber of Commerce for making tonight's event possible. Please remember to vote on or before Tuesday, November 8th. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the North Metro Mayors Association's Legislative Candidate Forum. Thank you all for joining us tonight. My name is Lori Higgins. I am the moderator for this evening's forum and the president of the Metro North Chamber of Commerce. The Metro North Chamber of Commerce is a community partner in the North Metro Mayors Association. The North Metro Mayors Association was created in 1987 as a nonpartisan organization advocating for issues and opportunities of importance to the North suburban region of the Twin Cities. I would like to thank the North Metro Mayors for coordinating and sponsoring the forum, as well as the members of the Metro North Chamber of Commerce for partnering to make this event possible. Thank you, Brooklyn Park, for hosting this event in their City Council chambers, and to CCX Media for recording and airing this forum. Our goal in sponsoring tonight's Legislative Candidate Forum is to provide residents with an opportunity to learn about the candidates' ideas and positions on issues that we believe are important to the future of our communities in the North Metro region. We will pose 4 prepared questions. Responses will be in rotating order with set time limits on their answers. I note that these limits are maximums and not minimums. We regret that we cannot cover all issues of interest tonight due to time constraints. I am pleased to introduce the candidates with us tonight for Senate District 34, John Hoffman and Karen Attia. Thank you both for participating in this forum. Each candidate will now have 2 minutes for an introductory statement, and then we will get started with the questions. Karen Attia.
I'm Karen Attia, a candidate for the state senate. Champlin has been my home for 25 years. It's where I've raised my 4 sons. Since my youth, I've had a passion for people. That passion led me to a career in healthcare. All of my adult life, I have lived and worked in the private sector as a registered nurse, mainly in the intensive care unit. I have also co-owned 2 successful restaurant businesses. Having enjoyed living the American dream, my desire is that our children and grandchildren have the same opportunity. Under current leadership, I see a movement both in our state and our nation leading us in the wrong direction. As a result, I've redirected my passion by committing to work hard to address the issues our communities care about. Topping the list are rising crime, threats to our personal safety, the increasing cost of living, and changes to education that negatively impact children's learning. Over the past 2 years, these concerns have been intensifying. Change is needed. We deserve better. I am ready and I am capable of being part of that change. Please join me as I seek to take my business experience and my critical care skills to the Capitol to bring our state back to health.
Thank you. John Hoffman.
Thank you, Lori, and thank you to the North Metro Mayors and to the North Metro Chamber for putting this Legislative Action Network forum together. And I'm glad to be here. It's nice to be in Brooklyn Park. 2 years ago, we did it in Coon Rapids. But let me tell you, I'm John Hoffman. I'm your current senator, married to my wife, Yvette, who's here in the crowd with us tonight for 29 years. And our daughter, Hope, who we've been residents of Champlin for 22 years. And I started my public service with the Anoka-Hennepin School District on the school board, and I served as its vice chair. I've always believed in common good and common ground. And do we agree all the time? No. But you know what that does? It gets us to a starting point where we can agree. That's progress. That's the Minnesota way. I have time to listen to what's going on, recalling what Jim Ramstad told me. Our late congressman said, when I served on the Federal Interagency Coordinating Council in the Bush administration, he said, John, leave your ego in the hallway. When you're talking health and human services and education, you want to focus on what's sensible, common sense, and pragmatic. It's that what drove me in the school district. It's that what drove me to be a state legislator. And with that, I said, when I was door knocking, the first constituent I ever talked to, he said, I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat, will you just get the work done and quit finger pointing? And I said, absolutely, I'll do that. So when you look at that attitude is imprinted all throughout the district, from the Mill Pond in Champlin to the Brooklyn Park Armory to Highway 610 to Highway 169 and 101st. Those things have been real improvements that make a difference locally. I have 24 endorsements from organizations that believe in the same thing. For example, the Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association endorsed me, the Minnesota Nurses Association, and the Firefighters of Minnesota have all endorsed me, saying public safety is a point, and we want to do that. So what I want to say is I want to continue to be a leader who works across those political parties and support businesses and families. My name is John Hoffman. I'm asking for your vote November 8th.
Thank you. At this time, we will go to our prepared questions. This will be done in a rotating order with a rebuttal opportunity. There is a 2-minute time for the answer, and after each candidate has answered, there will be a rebuttal opportunity with a 45-second time limit. So the first question, what are the top 1 or 2 issues you hear while campaigning, and if elected, what will you do to ensure that the 2023 legislature works in a collaborative way with the governor and the community to address those issues? Karen Attia.
The number one issue is safety in our neighborhoods. I have heard many stories as I meet people at the door recounting incidents they or their family members have experienced, causing fear and uncertainty. Examples range from carjackings, assaults, catalytic converter thefts, and more. How to address these issues? Politicians must celebrate, honor, and thank our dedicated officers for their hard work to protect us. Our state has some of the best officers in the nation. All of them have a college degree, and the public needs to know that. Also, we need to encourage local governments to actively work to increase public trust, showing transparency in all that they do. Include law enforcement in solutions. Those who do the job know best how to improve it. Increase funding for officer training and retention, and address holes in the juvenile system. Laws must be applied equally and evenly. The number 2 issue is the economy and the cost of living. Residents are feeling the effects of dramatic increases in gas and electric costs, food costs, property taxes, along with shrinking retirement investments. Lowering of our income tax rates and elimination of tax on Social Security income is a must. The $10 billion surplus needs to be returned to the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. I will repeat the question. What are the top 1 or 2 issues you hear while campaigning, and if elected, what will you do to ensure that the 2023 legislature works in a collaborative way with the governor and the community to address those issues? John Hoffman.
Thank you, Lori. And I'm reminded of the late Senator David Tomassoni when somebody asked him what were the 1 or 2 top issues that you have. He would list 20 number ones. And so I'm not going to do that here because what we're talking about is real life issues. People are tired of the polarization and the finger pointing and the fighting that they're seeing on the polarization side of this side or that side. I am too. When I'm talking to women are concerned about their health care choices and their ability to make their own decisions, not government, them. Working to make taxes fair by cutting those taxes for the middle class and ensuring seniors don't pay taxes on their Social Security. That's number 2. Number 3 really is the public safety. From our neighborhoods to our schools, we need to invest more in mental health and getting police the tools they need. What is it that's missing on their end? What do they need? They need to be able to do their job. It's really sad when you talk to a police chief who used to have 200 people apply for 2 or 3 positions that are open in their city, and now you get 1 or 2 that are going to decide that they want to try to work there. So what's happening on the side of that? In this last session, I was the co-author of the Senate tax bill that eliminated Social Security taxes. And I will be a bipartisan leader in getting that tax bill reintroduced the first week of session. I was honored to be approached by the chief author, Carla Nelson, a Republican from Rochester. Together, we showed the rest of the Senate. And because of that, it was passed overwhelmingly by the Senate. I have a track record of working across the aisle, and I will continue that promise as in my first run to set aside that finger pointing and that blaming. Paul Wellstone said it right. We all do better when we all do better. Get back to that conversation.
Thank you. And now an opportunity for a 45-second rebuttal, starting with Karen Attia.
I'd just like to say that, yes, there was a bill that was about to be passed in the 11th hour of our legislative session regarding taxes. And what happened? Our governor stopped the process. That is the truth. And so working together is one thing, but when something like that happens, a executive is stepping out of bounds and making decisions for what the legislature had already set.
John Hoffman, would you like to provide a 45-second rebuttal?
Absolutely. That's not a very valid statement. It wasn't the 11th hour that the tax bill was passed. The tax bill was passed weeks before session ended. And to say that the governor stopped the process, I don't know where that's coming from, because here's what's reality of this is we have this 120-day schedule to get 5.6 million individuals that we have a state to do business in 120 days, and it's never been a reality. And this is one of those where it never was a reality. But going back to this tax bill passed with overwhelming support on both sides of the aisle, was sitting there, conference committee was already done, and all we needed to do was just send it off to the governor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We will move on to question number 2. Describe your view of local and regional transportation infrastructure needs. Do you believe additional state funding for transportation is necessary? If so, what sources of increased revenue would you consider supporting? We will start with John Hoffman.
Thank you, Lori. It's a trifecta relationship, right, between local, state, and federal. Yet, within this, we got to bring those needs of the local communities, including businesses. You know, I've been a leader in funding smart, cost-effective transportation projects. And I love the fact the North Metro Mayor's Legislative Action Plan, almost all these bills have my name on them, which is just kind of amazing to me that we're sitting here having a conversation about transportation. Among the many achievements, right, that we look at is Highway 610. Our region, just in the last 2 years, has received over $105 million, and I'll give you the list. $23 million for the Hanson Boulevard, which is in Coon Rapids. That was a safety issue. $4 million for Highway 169 and 101st. That was my bill to alleviate the transportation corridor of 610. And speaking of which, the steadfast support that I've had in the infrastructure, including Highway 610, has paved the way for local business growth. Biomerix and Takeda in particular along this stretch. But what is missing is that dedicated funding source. I'm a supporter of moving that dollar amount that is sitting there that's a set aside for the auto parts sales, right? Just like we do with the gas tax in Minnesota. When you're filling up your gas tank in Minnesota, you notice that a portion of the money that goes to the gas tax is actually dedicated to our roads and our bridges, period. The same thing needs to happen here. I've been a supporter of that in the past, and I'll be a supporter of that in the future. Other things that I look at, right? $8 million for Highway 10, $1.2 million for the Brooklyn Park Army right here. Oliver Kelly Farm was $10 million. $16 million for Anoka Ramsey Community College. Thurston Boulevard, $15 million. $3 million for the nearly 80-year-old Elm Creek Dam at Mill Pond project. To look at Champlin and see this beautiful work that's being done there, from the TIF acquisition that I got that, to cleaning out the pond, the mill pond, you can actually fish in there now, and it's beautiful to see. It's absolutely beautiful to see, and I love doing that. I love delivering for the communities that I serve. And you know what was the amazing thing about Champlin, and this one too, is all this construction that we did, it was the first time in the history of Champlin got any of your dollars, your tax dollars, back to the city where it belongs to. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll repeat the question. Describe your view of local and regional transportation infrastructure needs. Do you believe additional state funding for transportation is necessary? If so, what sources of increased revenue would you consider supporting? Karen Attia.
I will talk about the current issues, not what has happened in the past. Locally, I will talk about the current issues, not what has happened in the past, and I thank you for what you've done, Senator Hoffman. Locally, an area transportation needs are of prime concern is in the city of Dayton, the fastest growing city in our state. Additionally, costs and funding needs are ever present throughout the district. State funding is certainly necessary, and I'm fully supportive of providing it wherever it's needed. I believe funds should come by redirecting and prioritizing state dollars through a review and adjustment process of other state agency budgets. The need to do this is very clear when we're looking at a pie chart of our state spending. General fund dollars for transportation is a 0.9%. Concerning regional transportation needs, I believe, based on the fiasco we are seeing in the Southwest Light Rail project, any further light rail projects should be put on hold. A study is currently under review by the legislative auditor about concerns of cost overruns on that project. The Bottineau line connecting Brooklyn Park to downtown, I believe, should also be held. With the metro area still slowly recovering from events of the past 2 years and many people working from home, a pause seems appropriate. Earlier concerns over bus congestion are not an issue now. environmentally friendly advancements in Metro Transit buses and their ability to offer widespread availability are a viable option to our area at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. And now an opportunity for a 45-second rebuttal, starting with John Hoffman.
Thank you for bringing up Dayton. You know, Dayton got money from the state legislature a couple years ago, and that was the Brockton interchange. And it just so happens I'm one of the authors of that Brockton interchange. And you're right, you know, Dayton and Rogers have not gotten their fair share. And you can even talk to the mayor of Rogers who tell you when they're looking at fiscal disparity, you're looking at LGA, they haven't gotten their fair share. They actually are on the downside of that, right? And so it's wondering, when you have leadership that absolutely will bring that to your city, don't you want that? And that's the case in Champlin. For years, Champlin, Coon Rapids very rarely actually didn't get any kind of state money, and that's what happened. But the other thing I want to do is look at Highway 610, secure funding for the full interchange on East River Road in Coon Rapids. That needs to happen now. I'm the chief author of that bill. This is how I'm going to work, and this is how I plan to work, and this is how I do work, and I will stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Attia, would you like to provide a 45-second rebuttal?
No.
Okay. All right, we shall move on to our next question. This community is part of not just a regional or national marketplace, but a global one that competes for business and talent. What policies would you support to help retain and attract businesses and talent to the region? We will start with Karen Attia.
Policies that result in a healthy business environment are key to attracting national and global companies. Our University of Minnesota is known for offering a high-quality education. The concern is, will these highly qualified graduates make Minnesota their home? Will they become a reliable part of our needed workforce? Currently, we are seeing a trend of top talent leaving our state because of high taxes. Just last week, I met Maria from Rogers, who moved here 2 years ago because of an employment opportunity. She will be moving out of Minnesota. She said, "It's not worth staying. The taxes are so high." If we want to be competitive, reducing our state income tax and our corporate tax is what I will support. The reality is our corporate tax rate is the fourth highest in the nation. Free enterprise and entrepreneurship is being suppressed as the tax and regulations grow. We need to make changes, or the long-term economic growth we want and need will suffer. Sadly, data shows our state has had below-average GDP growth since 2014. Continuing to increase our state budget will only make things worse. The budget rose from $30 billion to $52 billion in the last 10 years. Let's get serious about investigating waste and fraud. If we're serious about attracting and retaining businesses and talent to the region, lowering taxes is a must. By doing that, we will grow our position in the regional, national, and even global marketplace.
Thank you. I'll repeat the question. This community is part of not just a regional or national marketplace, but a global one that competes for business and talent. What policies would you support to help retain and attract businesses and talent to the region? John Hoffman.
Thank you. I've been a proud supporter of programs through the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, INDEED. You know, just this last couple of years, we have seen an increase in new businesses in Minnesota, 13,797. While we had 12,740 businesses closed, that shows a net increase of 1,057 new businesses. And of that, the small businesses accounted for the majority of the openings, right? These programs that the deed sets up are the Job Creation Fund and the Minnesota Investment Fund. And both those take tax dollars to work. And here's what it says, right? When all projects that are received an award from the Minnesota Investment Fund, right, the fund loans companies are actually gives them as long as those companies say they're going to retain high-quality workers and pay them a high-quality form of payment, right? Economic vitality is the word that's used, right? But in our own backyard, I want to point a couple of businesses where this has come true. First of all, Takeda Industries, right? That building that Takeda sits on 610 used to be Baxter Biopharmaceutical. The first $5 million tax bill that was given to make Baxter Biopharmaceutical a reality, when Takeda saw the work that Baxter was doing, it became one of their best spots to do their work, right? I mean, they're absolutely amazing scientists when they're doing some biopharmaceutical work there. They took advantage of that $3 million that was left over from the $5 million from Baxter. The other one is Biomerics. Biomerics, actually, they're stationed in Brooklyn Park. Medical Alley got them in place as well. They're expanding again, and they took full advantage of the JCF and the MIF funds that were there. My Pass Recycling, which is a place in Rogers, their project is expected to cost $24 million, and they're going to have starting wages at $25 an hour. They're getting JCF money of $450,000 and MIF money of $1 million to help get that business going. Those are tax dollars. That money comes in to help businesses absolutely thrive in Minnesota. I will absolutely still be a supporter of those. Thank you.
Thank you. And now a chance for a 45-second rebuttal, starting with Karen Attia.
Yes, I want to point out the unequal rules that were imposed upon. I want to point out the unequal rules that were imposed upon small business during the pandemic. Many small businesses were forced to close, and others were penalized for staying open. This is not right, and this is a result of our current leadership.
John Hoffman, would you like to provide a 45-second rebuttal?
You know, we must continue to invest in Indeed, right? The government investment in insurances through our trade office really makes that a global one. Let me bring up one more thing. I'm part of the Taiwan caucus. Everybody goes, why are you part of the Taiwan caucus? Well, I'll tell you why. Next week, the Taiwanese are coming to Minnesota to sign an affidavit of agreement to purchase soybean and corn from the state of Minnesota. Last time they did this, it was $1.5 billion. Next week, they're going to sign a $2.6 billion purchase in corn and soybeans from the state of Minnesota. That's because supporting Indeed, supporting our trade office, supporting that, being involved, and by the way, that's a bipartisan caucus. It's Senator Scott Newman, a Republican, and Senator John Hoffman, a Democrat, that are actually part of that, and we are bringing Taiwan agriculture delegation here to do that signing next week. Matter of fact, it's on the 15th if you want to show up at the Capitol for that, so thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to move on to our next question. What should be the role of the Metropolitan Council in guiding policy development in the North Metro? We'll start with John Hoffman.
I heard early on the comment about you need more than 2 minutes, so I'm going to go over time on this one too, if that's all right. Can I buy back some of my yielded time? I'm kidding.
You have 2 minutes, sir.
I know. You know, you look at the Met Council and why it was formed in 1967, right? Because this region, there were some major challenges. There was the inadequately treated water systems, a failing privately owned bus company, and development that it's sensitive natural areas, and there was an issue of fiscal disparity. But that fiscal disparity, what it was doing, it was causing this competition between cities. And so government, business, and civic leaders said, hey, the legislature needs to do something about it. So they created this Met Council. And they created the Met Council to do 5 things: transit, water, wastewater, parks, planning, and housing, right? That was it. And the thing that they're supposed to be doing is to convene and bring together communities to develop policies and shared vision for the region. The reason why I highlighted they're supposed to convene, right, then bring together communities and develop policies and shared vision, that's where the critique lies, right? Recently, there's been a lot of critique regarding the convening and collaboration in the legislature. And the legislature has looked at various options on how the governance council is put together. We must increase the public engagement with the council and get back to having local elected officials having a more robust, greater role within that council. And that's not saying you put away the tab. There is a tab committee that the council has. But you know what we're saying is, where's the local elected officials in that? And that's where the divide is, right? And how that looks, regardless of the divide, the conversation must happen. And I have in the past, in a bipartisan manner, with Senator Eric Pratt from Prior Lake, a Republican, John Hoffman, a Democrat, and had those conversations about what should that structure look like. Get it on the table and have that conversation, because guess who's going to have the answer? Those civic leaders, those community leaders, and those local elected officials that did it from 1967 on. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll repeat the question. What should be the role of the Metropolitan Council in guiding policy development in the North Metro? Karen Attia.
Well, when I started, the Met Council was chartered years ago for the purpose of designing a central sewer system. The Met Council was chartered years ago for the purpose of designing a central sewer system, from what I read. They are the only unelected body of its kind in the U.S. Policy guidance is one thing. However, the Met Council has evolved into a body that dictates or mandates plans to local cities seemingly without concern about what local elected officials see as appropriate for their area. Cities have little autonomy with their planning due to the constant and growing pressure from the Met Council. Overruling local decisions is not right. It is the elected mayors and city council members who are capable of guiding development within their cities based on what is best for their community. As elected officials, they are accountable to their constituents, whereas the Met Council is only accountable to the governor who appointed them. I believe many changes should be looked at concerning the function of the Met Council. Number one, rotating current local officials to serve as members on the council has been recommended by studies, making the body more accountable. Number two, its control of local government should be limited. Number three, its involvement in transportation planning should be taken over by MnDOT. In conclusion, I see the council's role should be as a consultant to local elected officials by offering assistance and advice about how development can benefit the entire region. So they do play a role. Thank you.
Thank you, John Hoffman. Your 45-second rebuttal.
I'm good.
All right, Karen Attia, would you like to provide a rebuttal to the non-rebuttal?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, this is the end of our questions for this forum. We will now go to the closing statements of our candidates. We are requesting 60 seconds max per candidate, and we will begin with Karen Attia.
I'll remember my mic this time. Thank you to the North Metro Mayors Association and the City of Brooklyn Park for hosting this forum, as well as, I think you said, the council as well. But I am grateful for the opportunity to share my views. In closing, consider your options this election season. Are you satisfied with how your life is going? Do you have concerns about the direction our state has been heading over the last 2+ years and hoping for solutions for a bright future? Are you feeling uncertain about your personal safety, increasing prices for everyday essentials, and concerns about changes in our K-12 education or high taxes? You have a choice when you vote. I offer a new vision and new leadership ready and capable of being the change we need. With the redistricting changes, I'm confident that this can happen. November 8th is election day. I respectfully ask for your vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Hoffman.
Thank you, North Metro Mayors and the North Metro Chamber. Are you tired of divisive politics where both sides are finger pointing and nothing ever gets done? I am too. I am proud of my ability to work across the political parties in the job to get it done, delivering real results that benefit families, businesses, and seniors. The pandemic was one of the worst, hardest times for us in Minnesota, but we as Minnesotans, we are resilient. We worked together to support our families and our frontline workers and small businesses, and now we are emerging even stronger than we were before. Our work is not done. We must ensure that businesses have the tools they need to grow and hire workers locally. Local businesses keep our community strong. I will work hard to protect your priorities, support small businesses, support our communities, grow the economy, invest in schools, road, and ensure compassionate care for our elderly and people with disabilities. I hope to earn your vote this election and gaining your trust that I am the best person to represent you in the Minnesota Senate. My name is John Hoffman. I'm asking for your vote November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. This brings us to the close of this forum. We would like to thank our candidates, the North Metro Mayors Association, the City of Brooklyn Park, CCX Media, and the Metro North Chamber of Commerce for making tonight's event possible. Please remember to vote on or before Tuesday, November 8th. Thank you again.